Okay, so when making your bobblehead, it's important to remember that you need to wedge your clay before you start rolling your slab. So if you're able to squeeze that clay in between your palms, then it is good and workable. If you're not able to squeeze the clay in between your palms, make sure that you add water to the clay and wedge it. But once your clay is wedged, go ahead and grab it, and you're just going to squeeze it in between your palms to flatten it a little bit, because you don't want to start rolling, a huge thick cube with your rolling tool, just because it's going to be too annoying. So pinch it just kind of like I'm doing here. You can then start rolling. So if you have a rolling pin at home, get some permission from your guardian, and then you can use that at home, or you can use that test tube tool. Notice that I'm rolling it and I'm picking it up and flipping it over, and then adding water as I'm rolling this slab. This is really important to make sure that your roller doesn't stick to your piece of clay. This also helps to actually flatten the clay. Every time you pick it up and toss it on the table, it's getting flatter, and it also prevents it from getting too thick or too thin in certain places. So just keep on kind of rolling until you have a consistent length. If you roll with the test tube and you get a little texture like is shown here, you can just smooth that out with your card tool once you get done rolling your slab, so that's no problem. So continue to roll until you have enough space to cut a 6 by 6 inch square, and you want the thickness to be about like I'm showing here, right? So not too thick or too thin. And if you don't have enough space, just kind of roll from the center out to those edges until you can get enough to cut out your square. And remember, you're folding it into a tube, so the width is just as important as the height, because it is going to be folded in half. So you don't want to cut it too skinny, or your bobblehead's body is going to be really, really slim, And that might be part of your design, but it's just going to be more difficult for you to smooth the inside if you do it that way. So go ahead and get your ruler. Make sure, kind of map out that you have 6 by 6. Use your paperclip tool to give yourself some kind of guidelines. So I'm marking it at the 6 inch and at the end of the ruler. Drag my paperclip across to cut the clay, and then set it up like an L so you get a right angle. Notice I didn't have quite enough to get to 6 inches, so I'm just rolling it out a bit further so that I can hit that point. Okay, I'm measuring it again, holding my left hand on the ruler, my right hand's dragging across to cut it. Okay, and then when you're taking the top cut, make sure it's parallel with the bottom so you have that nice good square. And again, I'm rolling a little bit out on that corner because I didn't have quite enough to hit my goal of my measurements. Again, dragging the paper clip across to cut, and then that last one, again, making sure to keep it parallel, double checking the measurements and cutting it. Right, and then you can just kind of peel away the remainder and you should have a nice square. Go ahead and pick it up just to make sure it's not stuck, and then put some water on it as well before you go to roll it, because you don't want the clay to crack along the way. You're also going to need some paper towels that you're going to kind of fold up and twist to put inside your tube so that it can hold. You're also going to need your popsicle stick tool, maybe even the end of your knife tool to help you smooth. So go ahead and gather those supplies, especially your popsicle stick is going to come in handy right away. And then you can see I'm getting some paper towels ready to use to kind of support the tube as I make it. So you're going to roll it into a tube. I like to just pull the top end towards me and the bottom end up to meet that, and then you're just pinching, as you can see, the two slabs of clay together with your fingers. It can be a little tricky to get to the very inside of it, so try your best to just at least get it to kind of grab on. And then we're going to start by smoothing actually the inside of the tube, because we're going to put the paper towels on it, inside of it, when we smooth the outside. So you want to hold it in your hand with the seam facing down so that when you're smoothing, you're pressing against your palm. So this is just a good way to make sure you don't push through the clay. And then notice I'm putting water on my popsicle stick as I'm smoothing it so that I don't tear the clay with just the wooden tool. And then go ahead and flip it and get the other side as well. So you're kind of smoothing that clay over with the popsicle stick tool and just kind of evening out that seam so that we make sure that the clay stays really well connected and doesn't fall apart. And you can use the end of your knife tool as well as a little bit longer if the popsicle stick tool doesn't work. And you can also use your hand as just, again, you might not be able to reach the whole thing. Okay, then twist up your paper towels and put them inside the cylinder that you've made and kind of shove them all the way as far as you can into the bottom and then let it sit flat. You're not going to need paper towels all the way up, so if it doesn't go all the way, don't worry about it. And then you're just going to smooth the outside. So you're taking that popsicle stick, smoothing across and smoothing down. And just again utilizing water to help hide any imperfections and to help smooth. We didn't use slip with this because we didn't want it to be soggier or heavier, because with plastic clay, and especially with building a large slab, we didn't want the extra weight that the slip gives, and we wanted it actually to set up and get leather hard a bit quicker, which is why we got those paper towels in there. Okay, so shove some of those paper towels so they're only about halfway. And then I'm gonna show you how to pinch the top of it to kind of look like a bottleneck. And that's how we're gonna kind of make the spot for the bobblehead to fit on. So first you're gonna cut out just a little bit of the extra clay. So cut out a V on both sides just to kind of remove this extra clay that we're not gonna need at the top part, because it is gonna be narrower. Right? And then you're going to do just like what we did with the cylinder. So you're going to overlap the two pieces of clay, pinch them together, and then you're going to smooth with the popsicle stick on the inside and the outside. Make sure to utilize water as you go, and notice that my hand is holding the outside of the clay, again ensuring that I don't push through as I am smoothing it. Right, and just be really gentle with your clay at this point. It's super plasticky, super wobbly, so it could get smushed really easily. So try your best to kind of not smush it out. Again, you can kind of hold the inside, smooth the outside as you go. And then we're just going to kind of pinch the top closed and make kind of like a neck with it. And I'll show you an example that I made earlier that's now set up in leather hard. That's going to be kind of like your goal, again, to look like a little bottle, right? So just pinch the two sides in and then the other two sides on top of that, and just start kind of smoothing and getting the shape to be how you want, keeping in mind thickness. You don't want to be any thicker than your fingers, but you also don't want to be too thin because it won't be able to support the bobblehead. Okay, and I'm just kind of smoothing, turning, smoothing, and turning. You want to think about maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches of a neck to hold up your bobblehead. If it's too short or too wide, the head won't bobble at all, so you want to give it a little space to kind of wobble around. And we're also going to need to give it some time to set up to get leather hard. Obviously, you don't want to make the bobble head and then just stick it immediately on this clay, because you can tell it's super soft and plasticky. So we really want to give it some time to set up so that the bobblehead can fit on there. And then I'm going to show you as well so you can, get that to set up, and then you can take the paper towels out and it should be firm and able to stand on its own. But again, it takes about a day, so you're just going to wrap your project in a plastic bag. You're not going to use damp paper towels in order to get it set up and get to that leather hard stage. And then as you can see, the pinch pot goes on the top and then it should wobble. But again, if you put it on this plasticky clay, it's going to smush it, so you got to just kind of hold off as far as that goes. But that's kind of the general gist of how your bobblehead's going to bobble. And then another thing you can do with this shape is you can take the paper towels out, and say your bobblehead, you wanted it to have legs. You can just kind of pinch the ends of it together to form two different legs, and then you can have the bottom half of the body, and then the upper part will be kind of your torso. And just think about how this might be a little bit more secure than trying to hold all of your clay up with some little coils. So that's another format that you can use as well. And just keep in mind how paper towels will really help you along the process, just to kind of hold things up. Okay, and then if you're going to do limbs, for example, maybe you're going to roll a coil for an arm, you want to roll that coil, get it the shape you want, get it smoothed out, but you don't want to attach it right away. Especially if it's going to be out floating, because the physics of it, right, gravity's just going to pull it down. So you want to give it some time to set up and get leather hard so that it doesn't fall apart or break. And then of course you're going to score slip smooth it to your piece. Another thing you could do is put some paper towels underneath the arm or anything like a tail that you have that's kind of floating, and to help support it as it's setting up so that it doesn't fall off. Okay, so that's basically a quick little run through on how you can build your body, neck, with limbs. Again, another thing you can think about is using this for, you know, what's the outfit? Are they wearing pants or a shirt? And then again, you're building off there. Just keep in mind pinky finger thickness for the bottleneck, not too thick, not too thin, and give it kind of like a flat piece at the top. Last thing you want to do is put a little indent inside your pinch pot so that the neck can kind of fit in there. So I like to use the very end of that test tube. It actually is kind of like a flat circle, and so you just kind of twist it into there, and it creates a really nice point just for your neck to kind of sit on, just to give it a little ledge so it doesn't always wobble. And this is something you can do kind of towards the end as well. So hopefully this helped. Remember that you have you know, full creative license to build your bobblehead however you want, but this is just kind of a way to get you started if you were stuck on how to get that neck built, body built, and how to get it to actually bobble or wobble. And then remember, if you want something to be leather hard, don't wrap it in damp paper towels and a bag, just use a bag. Or usually I recommend using 2 bags, because then if there's a hole in the bag, it doesn't completely dry out. All right, good luck, have fun.